Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to PCA Insider. We are here at PCA's national office. At the table to my right, we have Manny Albin. At the controls, we have Damon Lowney. And back once again, our dear friend Casey Parkin, owner of Group C Curation. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
So I want to make sure we thank our sponsor, Pirelli, for without their support, this show wouldn't happen. So thank you very much. And those of you that are listening out there, I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for being a PCA member. And if you're not a PCA member and own a Porsche, grab your VIN, head over to PCA.org and get yourself set up with PCA membership. For those of you that are looking for a Porsche, join our test drive program, where we'll unlock resources and help you find that Porsche for your driveway or your garage. Again, all at PCA.org. So can I kick off this podcast with, I had that sinking feeling. Don't chastise me, but I hadn't really moved my 87 Carrera since like last Thanksgiving. And I didn't intend it because I know we're going to talk about cars and storage and such. So I started it to move it out, and it did not sound healthy. You know how you can just sometimes tell your car doesn't sound right? And I was like, oh no, dollar signs. What could have possibly happened? It was running perfectly when I parked it, and now it was like, it just sounded like it was misfiring or like a dead cylinder. And all I could think is, oh, a 3.2 liter rebuild is
wow. You go straight to
the. I went deep.
Do you think when you have like a cough, you have lung cancer? Is that what you go straight to that?
I went deep. In fact, I pulled the car back into the garage. And I went home.
Put the cover on it.
I went home and I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? So I went back out, and this time I grabbed a bottle of a K100, which is similar to like Stable, and hoping, I'm like, maybe in the 6 months or so the gas went bad, but I've never had this long-term storage.
Condition the gas before you store it?
Normally I do. But this time, because I didn't think I was going to leave the car there for 6 months, and I didn't move it. And so I was like, could it be the gas? Please let it be the gas. Because
I'm going to put a note in my phone right now to text you on Thanksgiving next year to add 5 ounces of Stable.
Yeah. So I pulled it out, drove it, and it drove okay. I mean, but it definitely didn't sound healthy. And as I was going home, it started to sound a little bit better. I was like, let me just throw in like a couple of gallons of Sunoco 93 and please let it just wake up. And sure enough, I threw in some Sunoco, went down the road about half a mile, and the car, keep in mind, I was driving the 356 before this. All of a sudden, all this power, all 220 some horsepower of my car came back, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness. It's back and it's good. So for those of you that might be keeping your car in one place for a while, do you think modern gas deteriorates quicker than before?
That's not all. Yes, it's terrible.
It's terrible?
Absolutely terrible.
But like within the last 5 years, like
the water breaks away from it. So that's why you got to put Stable or any kind of fuel conditioner. Yes.
This
really?
is what we learn at Tech Tactics every single year.
But I didn't think 6 months.
If you were hanging out by the bagel table listening to the broadcast.
Quality Sunoco 93, like ultra.
Oh my God, we got to bring Lake Speed back on here.
So what happens from what's been explained to me by numerous people is when I park a car, and we'll get into this later, you want to park it with the gas level pretty high because you want the amount of air volume in the gas tank to be minimized.
Yeah.
The gas vapes off and effectively becomes nothing. The Stable that you add to the gas actually keeps the gas from vaping off, so that it actually keeps it more solid for a lot longer period of time.
I am also guilty that it was not a full tank of gas. So maybe between,
Wow, you
I
put it
know.
away wet.
I did, because I didn't intend for it to stay there that long. But it's been busy. We've been traveling and work and stuff. But
I'll
so
set that reminder the moment I turn
And
my
not
car
like-
on.
learn from my
If only
mistakes.
your garage was attached to your house.
I know.
you know?
Learn from my mistakes that even within 6 months, quality gas can go bad, and made my car
I think it's
run.
3 months actually.
My car ran terrible.
Yeah,
It ran
ethanol's
terrible.
a bad thing for vintage cars.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous, and I know for us, Royal Farms
Yeah.
sells 90 octane that's ethanol 3. If you
Here, like a
uh-huh.
like
Oh, well,
right-
the newer gas stations.
the one here.
I don't know about this one here
Oh.
does, but like the one on near Bob Miller's shop.
There's one
Yeah.
by At
Yeah.
Speed has
Yeah.
has
Really?
that. Yep.
Ooh.
And but if you can find a Sunoco that sells a race gas 95, that's also,
ethanol free.
and it has a 95 octane. But
Ooh.
yeah, ethanol. If you drive your car every day, no big deal.
Yeah.
But if for vintage cars, you're gonna park it. Yeah, you got.
How many miles do you drive a year in that car?
That car, if I hit 500 miles, that's a lot.
So you can, if you can't find a Sunoco, what I'm switching to, and we can talk about this eventually, is you can buy 5-gallon pails of Sunoco Ultima 95 non-ethanol. It's really expensive, but you can, and if you're only going to run, let's say, 500,000 miles in your car a year, that'd probably be my recommendation with stable on top of that.
Do you just order it online, or?
I can show you.
Okay.
Yeah, if you Google it, and there are some. I don't know if there's a station. I know in Arnold, Maryland, there's a station that sells the 100 octane ethanol. Or of course, we could talk about avgas, but I'm pretty sure your car has cats on it, so that's probably not something you want to do.
Oh,
but that's
yeah.
a conversation for a different time.
Yeah. Well.
And then you can use the empty can of that very expensive fuel and fill it up with regular gas, and then fill up your lawnmower, and your neighbors think you're really rich. 'Cause you're putting very expensive gas.
I'm gonna put myself out there and admit that this was not the second time I made a bad choice with gas. You guys know I have my little Suzuki K truck, which is in third world, and I figured that it could just run on anything. So speaking of a small pail of gasoline in the garage, I was like, I should cycle through that gas.
Oh my God!
So because I didn't want to waste it, so I was like, so I took that can of gas,
Lawnmower gas.
Wow!
well, I figured the K truck was kind of like the lawnmower, like it could run off
true,
of anything,
true.
right? So I threw it in to the K truck, and this is where I discovered K100. So I threw it into the truck, and it immediately ran terrible. But I had forgotten that I had done that, because I had done that like the week before, and I called my buddy. He's like, "These things are indestructible." I thought like what? Like, how do I adjust the idle and stuff like that? He's like, "Well, before you start messing with the carbs and everything," he's like, do you have good gas in it?" I'm like, "I think so." And then I remembered I put the junk, well, not junk,
man.
but yeah, my stored gas in it. He's like, "Just throw some K100 in there and slosh the tank around, and I bet you it comes alive again." Sure enough, it did.
So how much do you mow at your house? Like, do you push mow or ride mow? Do you go through a lot of
I
gas?
don't mow. I don't mow.
Oh.
That's from when I used to mow.
Oh.
Yeah. So, anyways,
So the move-
again, I share this.
How long ago was that?
Yeah, I share this so that
Damon,
people don't.
I know you're thinking what I'm thinking, but you're about to go on a podcast as a master DIYer.
Yeah.
I learned
Maybe
from
he's a
things.
master DIYer because he creates all this
I do.
DIY opportunity by himself.
I do create these opportunities. I learn from myself when I share with you all.
Yeah, and something else actually, it's not just classic cars that this ethanol gas can be bad for. I mean, it's bad for any car, but in particular, we've heard about bore scoring. That's one of the things that can exacerbate or cause bore scoring if it happens enough. So that's just my little scare tactic for everybody to
Quality
put
gas.
stable in their fuel and use quality gas.
Yeah.
At least with the Porsche, is always top tier. And don't if you're gonna store the car and you have ethanol, just buy a stabilizer.
There you go. All right. Well, hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. You got to do something fun, which I had the best of intentions of going, but a family event came about, and there was no way I could go back from Carlisle to Tyson's Corner and make all the times, and that was the swap meet.
They had a Carlisle swap meet hosted by Central Penn Region. We went up there. my wife couldn't be my regular helper. She had to leave at 9 o'clock to go to a bridal shower. So I was holding the fort by myself alongside Bob and Ellen.
So you guys had like three spaces or so?
Well, so Ron Gordon, of course, we found out he listens to the podcast, our vice president.
Oh, yeah. Somebody said something about
You
British
did.
cars.
I think you did.
I didn't say it.
Yes, you did, because I said, Ron Gordon's going to hear this.
I'm pretty sure I said you said something about it. Ron, you're gonna have to clarify.
Anyways, so Ron was selling. He wasn't there, but he gave Bob all his old apparel. Some used, some new,
like
shirts,
logoed material. Yeah, okay.
yeah, and which occupied at least 30% of Bob's space.
Wow.
And a lot of people were coming in and asking about the clothes and not about Bob's junk that he was selling. And then the other part was Ron Bremer stuff.
Oh.
So I told Bob, I said, had I known this was an option where you could I could give you my stuff, I would have done that from the beginning instead of bringing it myself. I'll just put it in your.
So did he say it was being consigned? Or
So he had
cut?
like 3 little pocketbooks where the money went into to keep it separate of how the sales were going on.
It's like an antique mall.
Wow.
Exactly. So it was fun. It was a.
You guys lucked out on weather. It was
Kind of. It was cloudy. It was always a sort of rain, but only rained for 15 minutes. But the rest of the time it was. People were in shorts and t-shirts.
So since you had to man your booth, you didn't get to venture out and.
We did one walk around. I didn't get to go look at the car show cars. I didn't find my Macan wheels. That's what my wife wants for winter wheels. So, like we were talking about, Facebook Marketplace is probably where I'm going to go.
So did you come away and not buy anything?
Yeah, that's correct. I did not buy anything.
Wow,
Yep.
Self-control. And you sold things, so you came away positive.
Yep, got rid of more stuff.
Yeah.
I had this blow up. Casey may remember this since you were in the dealership game for a long time. It was a float for a pool that was a 996 C4S.
What?
Yes, convertible, of course.
Wow.
I got it from a friend or something. Won it at a raffle at an event. Anyways, he gave it to me, and I had plans to blow it up and leave it hanging from my ceiling. It never happened. It's sat in my attic for probably 15 years. I brought it, and there was a lull. So I asked Bob Roche. He had a Ford F-250. I said, "Don't these have like a 110 plug?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Because stupid me, I bring the inflator that's a 110, not the cigarette lighter."
Right.
We plug it in, we blew it up. As soon as I blew it up, I sold it in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how much did something like that go for?
I just let it go for 20.
$20.
The guy moved down the way and
Probably sold
filled it
for
up a little bit more and sold for 50.
Like I told Bob, I'm
Yeah.
like, "Do you want to sell the stuff or do you want to take it back home?"
Right.
I said, "I want to sell my stuff, so
Wow, what a great deal for someone.
you can take the stuff away."
Yeah.
Like Parade wine glasses.
Oh,
How many of those do you have?
a lot.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Do you have them displayed?
No, I have them to use actually. I actually use them.
Really?
Yeah, I use
Oh.
them when we drink wine.
And how often's that?
Not very often. it's so infrequent that when I use it to drink wine, I have to clean it again, even though it's been on the cupboard for like a couple of years.
But anyways, it was a fun time.
How about you, Casey? Did you get to play with one of your cars? Or your Vespa?
So this weekend, I've been putting it off for a while. My wife and I had dreamed for years to own a Vespa, as you just mentioned. Bought a Vespa 1967 Super, really awesome. It was a piece of junk. Restored it, painted it, Fiat Light Verde. Never a big two-stroke guy. Found a company in England that makes electric conversions.
Oh,
So I converted it to electric. But the crazy thing about it is on the title, it's a motorcycle. So I'm a law-abiding citizen. So this weekend I took the 2-day course and got my motorcycle license.
So what's the law with that? Because I
over
know in Maryland over 50
it's
cc,
50 cc's.
Yeah.
but that's not electric.
It started as 150 cc's. So
Yeah,
they're
they're
considered
just going
the
by
title.
the title?
The title basically.
Yeah.
The title says motorcycle on it, and
Right.
it was literally the first time I was ever on a motorcycle was at motorcycle class this past weekend.
Really?
Yes. Dirt bikes when I was a kid. But it was really interesting. And at the end of it, I was like, I could see doing this on somewhere out west where there's like nobody around. Like you were just telling me a story a moment ago of some interesting things on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But golly, I like having four wheels. What does they say? A cage comes with age, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's more my speed. But for just putzing around the neighborhood, the Vespa's super rad.
And how about the 964 lately?
I don't think we talked about this the last time I was on, but I ended up with a 964 it was a one owner car. The first owner got it as a 50th birthday present from her husband. She wanted a car that was the same color as her hair. And through another great client of mine, I was able to find the car in Birmingham, Alabama. Getting a air-cooled Porsche has been a huge midlife crisis / aspirational thing for me. And it's coming along well. My buddy Yuri, who we'll talk about later, and I pulled the motor out over the winter. And I thought I got a really good deal on the car, but there is no such thing as a good deal on an old Porsche.
Oh.
As you can see there, we basically did a reseal clutch. Thankfully, we pulled the motor out because all the fuel lines were about ready to explode.
Wow.
And I put a brand new pad in. I actually used a technique using, rather than spraying glue everywhere, I glued magnets onto the back of the pad,
Yeah.
which works really well, and did a pad keeper as well, so I'll never have to do that again.
Interesting idea.
Yeah, it worked. I found it on, I think, Pelican or Rentlist or something like that, and it really worked out super
Can
well.
I ask a question for our friend? So those pads on top of air-cooled or 3.2s or I guess 3 liters as well and earliers, they tend to sag after the foam gets old. Someone has removed all of that and hasn't replaced it. Is it just for sound or is it also for keeping heat off of that back?
The answer is yes. Carrera RSs don't have it, so you can just pretend like you have a Carrera RS.
Okay.
I took it off my race car,
Yeah.
and I never felt it.
The RS Americas have it.
Hot.
At least the two, I'm fairly confident the two Carrera RSs that I look after do not have them. 964s at least.
Yeah, mine was just sitting on the engine, so I just pulled it because I believe putting a new one in. Is it possible to put a new one in without?
That's what they did with Project 964. Remember? They had the engine pad,
But I think they lowered the engine. No, they didn't.
That's how.
How much of the intake manifold do they have to pull off? There's no room.
Yeah.
I think people do this regularly.
Yeah,
they learn the
figure it out.
secrets, but I was blown away.
For those of you that are listening, if you know of a way to put a new pad in without taking the motor out, I'd love to.
I have
a link.
really good gloves on that, so
Yeah.
your hands aren't bleeding by the time.
Well,
you're
not
done
only
it.
that, but then placing it in, but then getting the
And
glue.
the adhesive. It comes with an adhesive already on it, right?
No, it does
No.
not.
Oh, it does
no,
not.
it's just a
You gotta
pad.
glue- Oh, okay.
So
just
that
a pad and like spray it.
So that's why I mean, it took hours to clean all the old
Because
adhesive
when I
off
did
of
the
ours.
sound pad on my 924S, it had adhesive already on it.
Oh,
so when you
no.
peeled back, and when you went to put it on, it stuck. There was no second chances.
Yeah.
That's a great thing about the magnets is it took me a couple of times to get it right in the right spot, but I just found some old Pelican parts, forum thread, and just followed it to a T, and it worked great.
And I think I've seen some sound pads that have magnets built into them.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
companies like Sonderworks out of North
Yes.
Carolina
Yep.
that sells them,
Yeah.
but they're also leather, and that's kind of not the speed I was going for. I mean, it's really cool. Like work on a Gunther Works, and that car, if I'm not mistaken, has a leather sound pad. I have
'cause
no
it's
idea
like
how it's
got
adhered.
like a quilted pattern
Yep.
to it. Yeah.
Yep.
So if your car doesn't have that whole theme, it kind of is out of place, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry about that. I was curious.
Oh, all good.
Yeah, they look good. So let's see. Where do we? Before we get into exactly what you do, there was something that came up in the news that was interesting, and it has to do with Street 963.
Well, it's a commercial they did about the 917 they built years ago for Mr. Martini, and they turned a 917 into a streetcar, one of one. And so if you watch the video at the end, Porsche flashes a silhouette, which is obviously a 963 silhouette, and basically saying, I think they call it for June of this year, they're going to debut it. So the question is, are they going to build a street
version
Not
of the
963.
963,
Yeah.
which you had flashed photos of something similar back in the day with the GT1.
So the GT1, was It's a tight car also. The 917, basically, I think the passenger seat was a joke. It was, the car was never meant to have two people in it, but they made it work. The GT1, just as tight, but a little bit more comfortable. The 963, if you've ever seen one up close, that's all electronics they have. I mean, there's no empty, at least the 917 had an empty area where the passenger would sit. The 963 it's pure electronics, and I don't know. What do you think, Casey? That's a lot of car to try to make into a street car.
Well, I'm all about it. I mean, if you look at 917, then you can look at the cars like the Dower 962, the Chopin 962, you know, so they did kind of, you know, make these cars into street cars. I've even seen people drive real 962s on the street, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
I would want nothing more than for the next Porsche hypercar to be a street-going Le Mans prototype. I mean, but if you look at things that they're relegated to now, like, you know, pedestrian crash standards and those sorts of things, I really would find it super difficult to believe it's possible, at least in the United States. Maybe doing one kind of like how Porsche did that Porsche Uncovered book where they did the 919 kind of streetcar thing a bunch of years ago as a model. I think it'd be great. The likelihood of it happening widespread, I think, is pretty nil, but I still called Steve Postal and put one of my good clients on the list, and he just laughed at me.
Just in case.
100%.
Just in case.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a one-on-one Thunderwunsch.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
That would be
That's
very
probably
cool.
the only way I think you could do
That's
it.
what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
There's no way you could mass produce that and go through all the regulations and have it still look.
I mean, to put airbags in it
Yeah.
and crash test it.
Right.
I mean, it's
So like the 919, what I thought was cool they did is they built the Evo. They said, if there was no rules, here's how fast we could make this car go. And then the 963 has a lot of rules it has adhered to. So I would love to see them build a car to say, hey, this is how fast this car can really go if we didn't have all these requirements that limit us on power and the electric motor and so on and so forth. But a street car, I don't know.
It's a cool dream, but then also
it made me pause like 10 times on the video.
I was stoked. I was really excited to see it.
Yeah. But then you also have to consider, and I hate to bring reality back into all this, is what's everything that's going on in the world. Is this the time to do something like that?
You know, people grew up with 959 posters on their wall. People grew up with Carrera GT and 918 posters on their wall. So, you know, it's an aspirational thing. It's a halo car. Why not?
Yeah.
I still think they got a little bit of a wake-up call, I think, from their potential buyer base, which were previous the 918 owners, Carrera GT owners, and I just spoke to 3 of them independently, and over the past year and a half, and they all told me the same thing was the only way they would buy an all-electric supercar is if Porsche did a 918 Circle thing again. Which, for those who don't know, that's where the 918 Circle owners got first access to all the special cars. So they got first right of refusal whether or not they wanted it. And that was a big plus to getting Porsche to sell these cars. They said without that, even just all electric, they're not thrilled about. The hybrid's fine, but not all.
Did they also get like a special edition 991
turbo?
It was an option.
Yeah.
It was a 997. It's like a 2013 997 Turbo S Cooper cab.
Oh, okay, yeah. They had to sweeten the pot, so to speak.
I mean, it was an option, so it wasn't free.
Okay.
But they
No, that would have been 991.
991, I think.
Yeah, it was a 991. Because Hans Peter got one.
Oh.
I think. But anyways, that was before the 918 Circle.
Yeah.
They announced that early on,
Right.
and they still wasn't really getting a whole lot of people. It was the 918 Circle that cemented the deal.
once they announced that, they were gone in about 2 weeks. I had a client very, very, very close, but unfortunately it didn't land.
Now, for our listeners that may not understand what the 918 Circle is, perhaps you can do like a quick.
I think I just said it. It's where you get first access to all the cars.
All
for,
the cars.
for a decade.
That's the key part.
Yep.
The key part is for a decade.
So you think about it, it's I mean, the first really big one that came out was 911R. And I think the way that it worked is they have to keep the car for a year, but then 911R, all GT3s, GT4s, GT3 RSs, GT2 RSs.
All the Heritage Edition cars.
Spiders.
That's a
golly,
smoking deal.
Yeah, Speedsters. And I think kind of like the end of it was a lot of them. It pretty much is about over now, but, ST was the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're buying into a program and having first access. Man, that'd be crazy if they offer that again. All right, so your daily routine has changed over the past couple of years, and I would say probably to the speed and pace that you're much happier now.
Thank you.
And I want to congratulate you on that with Group C Curation. So first, let's start off with what made you decide to go this direction.
But I guess you say, what did Casey do beforehand?
So during college, I worked at a Porsche dealership for a short amount of time, a couple of years. Took a job working as an audio engineer at National Public Radio after college. Answered a Craigslist ad when I realized that was more of a hobby than a career. For a job at a Porsche dealership, and I started working with Porsche in 2006 in sales capacity, and worked my way up to sales manager. And then in the fall of 2023, I decided it was time for a change.
And at the time, let's not maybe what I said earlier about you found your happiness for now, but at the time that you landed all that, like I've known you since then.
Yep.
I think I've known you since 06, 07 at least. It was an awesome job.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I Porsche took super good care of me. The dealership that I worked for sent me all over the world. I went to the Canary Islands. I went to Portugal a couple of times. I went to Germany a couple of times. Super appreciative. Absolutely nothing but respect for them. Through my process of, 17 years at one place is a really long time. So I started participating. It's rather timely. You had the gentleman from Owings Mills here in the Porsche Restoration Challenge. And I really then realized that my passion was for older Porsches. Thankfully, Porsche really supports that program through Porsche Classic. The Porsche Restoration Challenge is an awesome experience. The first year we did super well and showed a car at Sports Car Together Fest, which I borrowed your Porsche mountain bike and stuck on the roof.
Yep.
And then the second year, we did a 944 Turbo, which I've talked about on this before, and we've done videos. And that placed very highly. Actually, there's a picture of it on the screen now. They actually showed that car off at the Porsche Gallery, Heritage Gallery in Atlanta, which was super rad. It was probably one of the most validating things of my entire career, to see that car there, which was my baby. And through that, I decided that working with classic cars was more my passion. And while that wasn't necessarily available to me at the dealership level, I saw a need through some prior clients that I had to take care of their babies, more to put it bluntly. And I've been doing that now. I did some consulting for a dealership in the interim, but starting basically this January, all of my business has been curation of collections for clients.
So what do you define as a collection? What's the number? What's the...
That's a great question. I currently have 2 Porsches, and I need a me to stay on top of them, and we'll get to that later.
Make sure you have the right gas.
Yeah, for sure. Make sure you have the right gas. But it could be anywhere from 3 to, I think the largest collection I look after now is, I counted this morning, it's always moving up and down, but it's roughly 52 cars, 53 cars.
Wow.
So anywhere in between. And of course, the more cars, the more time it takes to make sure that they work. But that's what I do now. It's my job to make sure that that they function correctly, and that if at the drop of a hat, if the owner wants to drive one of those cars outside of anything unforeseeable, that car is ready to go to the best of its ability.
Do these owners come to you realizing they need help managing their collections, or do you go and see a collection and see the, the messiness or the lack of maintenance, and then you go, hey, you need someone like me?
It kind of works both ways.
Both ways. Okay.
The clients that I predominantly work with now are people that I've known for quite a while. And I did know that what their situations were. Both of them included both of the two areas that I work predominantly, not only required the fixing up of their cars to make sure that they're correct and functional, but also my wife's an interior designer, and we live in a very streamlined home that everything is kind of in its place and organized. It's my goal to make sure that things are accessible easily, so that if a client wanted to get a car and that I didn't have the opportunity to prepare it for them, they could get it out without too much work and make sure that they wouldn't damage something in the interim. You and Manny came to a spot that I work at locally, and you could see that it's pretty on point as far as organization.
You said you had to rearrange. They had lifts before then.
Correct.
But the way that it was installed or laid out was not good for egress, let's say, if they want to get the car in the back. So you changed the layout of the room and the lifts to make it work.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was enlightened visiting the Porsche Museum in Germany, where you're in the cafe and you look through the back wall, and there's the glass wall where they have the double stacker lifts, where the cars are they look like they're model cars just stacked up.
Is it kind of like this?
That's exactly it. So you can see that while it looks a little daunting to, let's say, get the 3.8 liter Carrera RS Club Sport in the bottom and the back out, but moving 3 cars in a straight line versus having to do a 40-point turn to get the car to pivot in a different direction, that's a completely different animal. And of course that then introduces the opportunity for damage, for running into things. And that's not, I like to mitigate risk to the top of my ability, and changing things up like that is certainly a possibility. There's another space that I work at that also doubles as kind of an intermediary for moving cars in and around. So that one's a little bit more complicated at times, but you can see that I did my best to make sure that things are positioned in a way that, with easy access for getting cars up and down and in and out. It's pretty simple.
I noticed in these photos, the majority of the cars are Porsches, but the collections that you look after include other makes and models as well.
They do. So Porsche, of course, I've been a Porsche. Oh, there's a funny one. That's a Nissan Figaro. So I often get into quirky things here and there. I've had to learn a lot, which is a huge benefit to the career change. Other than I knew that Ferraris were traditionally red and sounded really good, I didn't know much about them. So ingratiating myself to that life and to learn how the cars work and learn the best way to take care of them. I know more about modern mid-engine Ferraris and Lamborghinis now than I really thought I ever would. But I always harken back to Porsche. That's my bread and butter and what I've really cut my teeth on for most of my life. So I will always recommend Porsches as much as possible.
Is there a difference in how you address these collections, where some collections cars are static, probably 99% of their time, and then there's some where I can tell here these cars are driven? Do you have to balance that, or do you take on a collection that only has cars that move around, or do you mind? Or
so I have 3 collectors that I work with currently, spanning about almost 90 cars between the 3 of them, and every client is different. I've got one client that has a number of cars with extremely low miles, things like modern Ford GTs with 10 miles on them, and delivery mile vehicles. And when it comes to something like that, you really have to ask yourself what the goal is. That's not the kind of car that you really take out to put miles on, as I traditionally would for someone that planned on driving them. Maybe to the closest gas station, which in both locations is less than a mile. to fill up with fuel, fill up with stable to make sure that it stays as good as possible. And then at sometimes I just roll the car outside, of course, under its own power, bring the car fully up to temperature, make sure that, and when I make sure I park it, I make sure I don't park it on the exact same spot on the tire. The tires are always overinflated, and then set to correct pressures, of course, when they're being driven, but then overinflated to prevent flat spotting.
Seems like we've mentioned the brand Stable a number of times today. Is there a particular Stable? Everybody knows the little red bottle. Is it that general one, or is there like a specific Stable model that you use?
So there's two of them that I use predominantly. One is Stable, which is the red bottle that you're familiar with. That one is mostly used for fuel-injected cars.
Okay.
The other one is called Stable 360. Stable 360 also has a ethanol neutralizer in it. So that's traditionally what I use on cars with mechanical fuel injection and carburetors.
Could you use that on newer cars or no?
I'm assuming you could. I just traditionally don't with modern-ish fuel injection.
And you said when you go get gas for these cars, do you always put Stable in it?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
all the cars in these collections have Stable.
And currently, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
There are some times that I know that a car is routinely driven, but it might sit for 2 months.
You'll still put Stable
Still
in it?
put Stable in it.
Really?
Absolutely.
That's some good tidbit of information I could have used in November. Really, 2 months and you're still...
I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry.
That's true. That's true.
And I only use top-tier gas. Traditionally, I only go to Shell power stations.
Yeah.
Yep. Ones with a lot of turnover of fuel to make sure that it's fresh in their tanks as well.
As you're describing what your responsibility is, I can't help think of like commercial fleet vehicle management and, like the places that rent vehicles and their logs. And do you do that with your...
So every car, if you flip back to a picture, Damon, you might be able to see it. Every car has a piece of paper taped to it or stuck under a windshield wiper. Sorry, indoor picture. Somewhere you can see there. They all have the last time the car was driven, the date that the Stable was added, the date that the fuel was added, and the tire pressures when the car was parked. That's all. That's done manually, and it's also done electronically. There's an app called Notion that a colleague of mine helps tailor to my needs, and I utilize that for making sure that I'm on top of everything. And of course, if a client ever says, do you know how many miles are on this car? Yeah. I always take timestamp photographs. I learned that with Porsche. You take a timestamp, date stamp photograph to show exactly what the miles were. Every time I drive a car, when I start and when I stop, I always take pictures of miles, so I always have that documented.
Do the clients tell you when they come in to, let's say on a weekend to drive some cars, do they tell you which cars they drove?
Well, traditionally it's led with a conversation earlier in the week saying, I'm going to be there X day. Can you please let me know if you have any plans on driving anything? Traditionally, the one location that I work at, there's a Golf Blue 993 RS. That car is always ready to go. The pressures are set to what Porsche is asking for on the dashboard. And that is that's something that I always aspire to have one car ready to go. And then sometimes if they have any interest or we talk about something else, that car is always in the wings.
So I have a photo up here. I can't quite see it well. Is that the car, or did I get that one wrong? That 993 RS?
No, that's a turquoise blue Carrera 2S. It's all good. No, that car sold at that was a car I helped get ready for the Gooding auction in Amelia Island this year.
Do you go down to the details? Because I do this too. Is sometimes tires look incredibly nice, but you didn't realize you've had those tires for 8 years.
So, yes, that is every car that. So when a car shows up, I do an intake process where I photograph every panel. I note every car that has any sort of issue. I take pictures of the wheels. You can see things like on a modern Porsche with ceramic brakes, depending if it wasn't a brand new car, and if it was cleaned with something using like a wheel acid, you can see some of the anodization removed from it. Those are things that I make note of, but I also take pictures of the dates on every tire of every car. There are cars that recently there was a picture of a yellow Diablo. The it's a 1999 Diablo, 3,000 miles. Really old Pirellis, so old that I don't believe it had. That's the front of it right there, and that was the old tire. But there was the tread was starting to delaminate from the
Case.
from the tire itself.
Wow.
So that car got a big sign on the dashboard that said "Do not drive" until we replace tires, and then just got I had the wheels tuned up by my local guy because 3-piece wheels are interesting. I had them straightened and put a fresh set of Pirellis on it. And the crazy thing is that Pirelli only makes tires that fit that car like every 5 years. So even though the tires are brand new, I still think they had 22 date codes, which isn't great, but it's a lot better than 1999.
Wow. The photos of that same car up on Quick Jacks.
Yes.
I can't imagine you have the time to work on cars too.
So that's a great question. So that's another Diablo. That one actually had 3-piece wheels that were leaking. So I'm picking those up on Monday. But the yellow one back there was one where the wheels were getting fixed up.
Yeah.
So I have, depending upon what car it is, they go to different people. I have a gentleman that I work with. He's one of my best friends. His name's Yuri Gora. We worked together at Porsche Silver Spring.
I know Yuri.
While he worked at Porsche, he obtained the highest levels of certification through Porsche and their Goldmeister program when he was with the company. He has since moved on to work on his own because I think he got the bug on working on old cars similarly to how I did. He does the majority of the service work on the cars that I handle. And then if it's something like a more modern Ferrari or something really out there, like an old Lamborghini or something like that, that's real quirky, I've got specialists that work on those specific cars.
When these cars are being worked on, you're relaying what these car needs and decisions on what you're going to do to that car to the owner and then handle it for them?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
It's basically the way that I look at it, and I think the word's a little overused, but it's full concierge. I mean, the one thing that I learned working with Porsche, and a really cool thing about their brand ambassador program, is they send us to really awesome hotels, right? So like every time we go to Atlanta, we'd stay at the Ritz-Carlton, and they did that specifically so that we could see how people are treated at that type of establishment, because they wanted the people at their dealer platforms to treat clients the same way. And I really have I'm super appreciative of them for having that foresight, but I use that same approach to make sure that within reason, my clients are taken care of so that they don't have to think about things. I mean, even like think about having 10 cars in the state of Maryland that are registered in the state of Maryland that have 10 different expiring dates on their tags.
Yeah.
And then 10 different cars that need emissions inspections.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if the car is parked for an extended amount of time, the readiness codes won't set. So then that car needs to be driven X amount of miles to get those to set. And sometimes it takes 2 or 3 attempts over 2 or 3 weeks to get those to happen. If you are of the ability traditionally to own cars like this, you don't have the time to deal with things like that.
Right.
And while that's a very small part of my job, removing that difficulty from the client is something that it's all about convenience.
I also appreciate how much passion you have for doing this, because we've spent some time together at your collection, and it's people probably, when you drive the cars and go to wherever you need to go, they're looking at you through the glass going, man, that guy's living the life, which you are living the life,
right.
But it's not as glamorous as people think, because you're handling the minute details to make sure that your client has the experience, and you're doing the behind the scenes work, kind of like, someone at the back of the kitchen, so to speak, and making sure that the dish that goes out every time is perfect, ready, consumed, and enjoyed.
That's a great way to look at it. Early when I was doing this, I was really considering getting a shirt that just said "It's not mine," because that certainly alleviates a lot of the questions that I get. But so when you drive a car, like let's say a Metzger 997, right? Under part throttle and those sorts of things, it can feel absolutely fine. But sometimes when things like plugs age out and those kind of things, that under super high load and high RPM, they start to break up. I'm not a big proponent of beating on cars that aren't mine. And while there's only certain stretches of road that I really lean out a second or third gear to make sure that the car is performing as intended. But every once in a while you have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's a big liability.
It's
I
a
mean,
big responsibility.
I mean, these are big cars. I mean, GT3 RSs now, when we could barely sell them when they were new, in 2010, 2011, are anywhere between $300,000 and $1 million, depending upon which version of the car it is. So it's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Do you have a freedom, or I guess a certain leeway when it comes to maintenance or repairs, or is everything have to be clear for every client?
I always make sure that the client knows exactly what's happening.
But do you set the goal line, or do they?
Each of my clients kind of responds differently to the type of work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of the cars that, let's say these delivery mile cars, I make sure that they get taken care of timely. But I've got my one client with a lot of the RS vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much carte blanche to make sure that the cars are working correctly. When you talked about tires, some of those tires on those cars are a bit aged out. Those cars are not necessarily being driven to a grand extent or for long durations. So that's the conversation that I have with the client to make sure that, of course, if they do decide to drive the car, they are safe. And that's part of the inspections that I do on the cars. Every car gets driven between every 4 and 6 weeks, anywhere between 5 and 22 miles, depending upon the route that I go on. And I make note of everything. I do thorough inspections before and after each drive to make sure that nothing occurred during the drive. And then, of course, after I finish, I make sure that the car is cleaned correctly and then stored correctly.
How about when it comes to acquiring or selling the cars for the collection? Is that a service that you provide as well?
So I am always looking for cars that I know that fit my client's kind of persona. Most recently, for my one client, vintage Porsche race cars, like when Bob was on here the other day talking about race cars, that's something that I've been focusing a lot on and learning a lot about. I helped my one client acquire a 993 Super Cup and a 2003 FIA GT3 RS, basically the last GT3 RS before they went to sequential gearboxes that you see on the screen right now. And I was a big part of that process, and that's my dog. That's Ellie.
Oh, that's also at TPC Racing.
Yes. Yeah, so you were talking about who services the cars. All of the race cars go through TPC.
Makes sense.
My client is also one of Mike's clients, and nobody knows that era of Porsche sports car, I believe, more than Mike Levitas.
Oh, and they're all relatively nearby as well.
They are relatively near. It certainly makes it convenient, but no, that thing's awesome, and I can't wait to get that
car.
So that was the only one delivered to South Africa. It was never professionally raced. It's in, of course, the communication graphics, and it's basically getting fresh safety, and then just the exhaust that's on it, if you see there in the back, is designed for low volume circuits. Those cars uncorked are super loud. So Nick, the fabricator there, is putting together a full Inconel exhaust system, copying the factory original that's uncorked.
For that car, was it posted somewhere, or is that something you sought after you heard about?
We were looking for it. That car was in England, and we were able to secure it from there. I didn't go to see that one personally, but the guy that was there came very highly recommended and gave me a ton of photographs and a ton of videos of the car showing how happy it was. And that was also in an issue of Excellence magazine a couple of years before we found it.
Are these cars like the Vu Nguyen collection, where when they come in, they never leave? Or do you sell them for collection?
So
why'd you have to throw me under the bus?
The one collection with all the RS cars, those aren't going anywhere. The other collections are a little bit more transient. Part of my evolution of my business is to manage online auctions. I don't believe there's a whole lot of that locally, including people that are trying to support the Porsche Club of America in this region. So I've got my first car queued up, ready to go probably in the next 2 weeks. but that's going to be a big focus of my company because the collection management does not take all of my time.
Okay. And Manny is well versed in that with Project 964 recently.
Yeah, I really think there's a need for that. Obviously, 911R did ours, and we saw how much business he has.
Yeah.
But I think people like the idea of selling on online auctions, but a lot of them are intimidated by what's expected, the level of photography, the level of preparation, and that may dissuade some people from trying it out. But it's like any concierge, if there's someone that can take care of it all, people are willing to pay to have that taken care of, especially the higher line cars.
Yeah. And watching the process of Project 964 and 911R obviously got us a fantastic result. But managing the expectation of the customer and knowing that there's still, I mean, it took a lot of his time to get all the data, get all the parts, get all the, all of the necessary things to get that car ready for sale. That's what he did. But, customers like yours, they've got other things that they're doing. They might not have the time to do that, but they can rely on someone like you to do it.
For sure. So a lot of that comes from my current client base and also expanding to the majority of my business so far has all been referral based, which is tremendous. And as I, was the sales manager at a Porsche dealership for both new and used cars, knowing what it takes to make a car right so that when the car is delivered, that you can stand behind it. And all I have, and what I used to tell people when I worked at the dealership, is all I have in this business is my name.
Yeah.
Outside of the name on the building and all that stuff, if for some reason I fall short, that's a failure on my point. So it's always my goal to make sure that I would stand up for something the best that I could. I have pretty good attention to detail. So making sure that all these things, and a lot of the cars in the collections I look at are from online auctions. And a lot of them came not necessarily how I anticipated them showing up. So it's important to make sure that, being that I see both sides of it, it's important that I'm able to speak to the history and heritage of a vehicle in order to properly represent it for a client, and to also, more importantly, the person that ends up with the car. Because the last thing that you would ever want to do is sell a car and the person that ends up with it isn't happy. That would always bum me out. When I worked at the Porsche dealership, somebody would order something, they'd say, oh, I need this, this, and this. And of course, through counsel and those sorts of things, if they ended up with something that wasn't what they had anticipated, it bums them out. So it's my job to try to anticipate what those things are and then deliver upon that to make sure that they're the most comfortable that they can be when receiving that good.
I've always been curious. There's some collectors, or those that have acquired vehicles, that are true enthusiasts and know what they want and put together their collection, but okay, they've ran out of time, so they need someone like you. There are also collectors out there that have buku dollars and don't necessarily, Manny and I talk about this all the time, they don't necessarily know which is the right car to get. Like they just kind of, I like that one because of the color. I like that one because I heard someone talk about that one being an important car. And they just kind of grab everything because they have the means to do so. Like, do you have a preference, or do you choose your clients that would fit better with you in the sense of how they approach on acquiring and or building their collection?
That's a really great question. Traditionally, it's very hard to change someone's opinion when they've already formed it. Being it when I was selling cars, or now that I take care of their cars and they want to expand, I'm always happy if somebody ends up with something that makes them happy. One of my clients recently he's got a really amazing collection of cars, and he just got a brand new Mini Cooper, John Cooper Works. And even though he has all these amazing cars, he loves this thing so much, and it brings me joy, even though I never would have recommended, go buy a new Mini Cooper and see what it does. But to them, it makes them very happy. So as long as it gives them that joy, to me, it doesn't matter.
Interesting. Do you find having to convince them of something that you see that is out there that is a good buy, but they don't necessarily get it?
The thing that I preach currently is naturally aspirated manual transmission, especially for somebody that's looking for, this is not investment advice, but if you're looking for a car that they don't make anymore, manual transmission, naturally aspirated cars don't exist. Unless it's a Porsche, And those are traditionally the things that I believe, as they continue to phase out those type of cars, those are the things that people are going to be gravitating towards. That's why you've seen explosions in 996, 997 GT3 product, GT product in general, because they don't make cars like that anymore. You cannot go out and buy that car for something that gives you an equivalent experience for less than a whole lot of money.
And I think that we've always talked about the thirst for analog
100%.
experiences. And as we move forward with time, the amount of items that are available that offer an analog experience is getting smaller and smaller.
It's definitely thinning,
right?
for sure.
Thinning out. So if you can get in on it, it's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of them have really departed. I mean, you're like a 997 GT3. I remember trading those cars in, really great cars, for 75, 80 grand. You know, you can't touch a 997 GT3 now that's worth buying for less than $150,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how's that old saying go? The shoe cobbler has the worst pair of shoes.
Shoe cobbler's children have no shoes. Or
That's
something
it.
like that.
Yeah. So you're taking care of 90 some cars, fully documented, doing this, that, and the other. Do you still save some time for yourself to play with your collection?
So my 914, as we discussed a couple of weeks ago at lunch, I've had that car since 2009. And the plan for that car this past winter was to rebuild the engine and get it going. Unfortunately, the 964 fell in my lap, so that kind of got pushed to the side. That's been a priority. And that's honestly, and Manny put a post on Facebook recently about how his 964 was small compared to a truck, and I made a reference as to how scary the 914s are. But I mean, it's such a tiny car, it's so low that honestly being in a car like the 964 is a lot safer. And especially now that people around here stare at their phones, they're not paying attention, they drive through lights, they drive on the shoulder of the road to pass you. Being in something that is bigger, that's a lot more formative, to me is more appealing. So I'm being the fact that the 914 is not necessarily being worked on now, it doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah, you definitely have to be very defensive. I drive my older, smaller cars like I do when I ride my motorcycle. I am looking constantly to see what they're not doing right. This morning, literally, as I took my son to school, there's like a little chicane on one of our streets. The person took the chicane and went into the other lane, into the opposing traffic for like a good 50 yards before they realized they were in the other lane. It's crazy.
There's a lot of that. I drive, when I go to my one location, I drive up 395 to 295 through Washington, D.C., and the craziness that you see on that road in the morning or in the evening is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having a little bit more, being that my crumple zones aren't filled with rust like they are in the 914, I'm happy to be in something a little bigger.
But there is something about not having that protection makes the drive kind of thrilling. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I guess maybe like a motorcycle or driving an older car, that if you can make it through, it's really rewarding.
There's nothing like, now that, I mean, it's crazy. Like yesterday, one of my jobs yesterday, I take care of a signal yellow Carrera RS, a 73.
Ooh,
and
wow.
To me, and I also take care of a 74 MFI, and they feel pretty much like it's the same car pretty much behind the wheel. I fit better in the MFI, but there's nothing better than that lightweight front end that you get in an early 70s car. And the 914 has very similar suspension to a 911 of that era. And honestly, there are a few things better than just that quick steering feel. And that's something that you definitely don't get in a 964 that makes 914s awesome. So I'd love to get it going again. It's just unfortunately not been a priority at the moment with everything else.
Understood.
Just make sure your horn works.
I definitely make the horn definitely works. Yeah.
I drive with one thumb on the horn.
Yep.
You drive with one thumb on the horn just because you're you.
That's true.
All right. Well, let's say you don't have a collection. Well, perhaps we can help you build your collection. PCA members, the member-only raffle is open, and the first grand prize is a GT3 plus $35,000. Second grand prizes, and we already know we've passed the threshold, so we will be adding at minimum right now a second grand prize, which will be the 2026 911 Carrera plus $35,000 cash. And as we get more folks entering into the raffle, we add more grand prizes. So good luck to you. And again, you have to be a PCA member to be able to participate.
You know when it ends?
It ends. I don't. I think it's like June. Sometime in June 10th or something like that. The final rules will tell you. You've got some time. Let's see. Want to remind you.
June 16th.
That was pretty close. June 15th. June 16th. Also want to remind you to head over to PCA.org to sign up for PCA's newsletters, performance news, e-brake news, and Mart Fresh, all free. Porsche news. We had kind of something funny yesterday, and it's a small world kind of story. We also had news here at PCA's national office because we heard a chopper flying above our office, and it was a PCA member that was actually in the chopper, and she gave us a call and she said hello, and yeah, there was an accident down the street. Unfortunately, not good news, but in Porsche news we have WeatherTech and Laguna Seca, and some news there.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Porsche became the official car, so that will make us very happy now because we could always go up there and see a Toyota or I may have had Subaru before, some other car as a featured car, but now it's going to be Porsche. And they're going to be working with the Friends of Laguna Seca, which manages the track, so that's a good thing. And they're going to build a performance driving center, which I'm not totally sure what that is.
So would it be like
PTX?
Like PTX?
No, I don't think. Well, we'll see. I'm not going to say
think
no.
I think it has to. It's not an experience center.
No, maybe it's a new thing. But they're going to have a driving experience.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's going to be to the level of Barber, but hey, it's all good news that Porsche is getting involved with Laguna. I'm sure. I don't want to speak for Porsche, but that pretty much tells me that the next Rennsport will probably be again at Laguna. Do you really think that they would get a partnership with Laguna and everything, and then pick some other track?
I would say that's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah. Start reserving your hotel rooms.
Yeah, but the problem is you don't know what the dates are. You're gonna have a blanket reservation.
But I think it's 5 years.
You can do it by the years, but you still
don't know what the date is, though. Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with you that with that investment, I would be betting that.
I think between Dad having Bruce Knapp at the helm, things are looking good for Laguna.
Yeah, and it simply is a wonderful recipe. They've got it down.
No, it's a great track.
Yeah. Next news item we have here has to do with a Cayman, and this time we're talking EV.
Yeah, so the Cayman EV has been spotted being tested. It sure looks just like a regular ICE Cayman. It's not totally different from what the ICE was. Of course, this was kind of like put on hold because the battery manufacturer was in bankruptcy, and it was a specially designed battery for this model. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think they could exactly go down to the local Home Depot and just get a new battery for it. It was something they had to wait. Hopefully, I haven't read if they got it resolved with the manufacturer or what happened, but it's good to see it back being tested publicly. They're calling for, and this is, I think, Car Scoops who's saying this, that it would be it would come out in 2026 as a 2027 model. So I would imagine mid-year next year sometime.
Not that far away.
Yeah.
Certainly looks nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting because I think everyone's been waiting for a sports car EV and see what it does.
The one thing that I noticed in the photos, sort of 70s era like, is where you put in the plug. It's in the back, kind of like how, back in the day when you had their license plate, you had to flip down and put gas in, like the old school cars. The plug is in the middle, center, and the rear.
Interesting.
See that?
Yeah, these are still
It's like a GNX.
But it's heavily disguised.
So it's I'm excited about it. Hopefully I get the opportunity to drive one.
All right, let's see. We're gonna go into some events here.
You know what they said also?
Yeah.
Of course, this is Car Scoops, but it's going to be available in all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. So speaking for Damon, I'm sure the two of us are going to be very excited about the rear-wheel drive one.
I don't know.
Yes, exactly. And then I'll beat all the all-wheel drive ones at the autocross.
I don't know. An electric all-wheel drive Cayman, I think will have some serious performance points.
You know, it depends on the driver.
Oh God, here he goes.
Oh,
Here he goes.
wheel drive is always the cheaper one. It's the base one. So
It'll probably have some insane torque vectoring,
Yeah.
really, to
Oh, yeah.
pull it through turns.
Pull it
But
through
I'm sure
turns.
Damon can figure that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no need. Everything off. No torque vectoring. No stability control.
I don't know how much you can do on EVs anymore.
Yeah, exactly. All right, 2 events I want to mention. We've mentioned before. We're really getting very close. Porsche Parade, Oklahoma City, July 6th through 12th. Phase 1 is currently closed, and Phase 2 will be opening, I believe, May 21st. That's when you make all your choices for your experience at Porsche Parade, so stay tuned for that. Treffinet Sea is open with close to 900 people heading on the northeast corridor here for our 70th anniversary cruise. That is August 30th through September 6th.
And I will say to everyone who spoke to me at the swap meet about the cruise,
Yes.
that all started off because, and if they were with their wives, they would say, "I am not a cruise person," and I responded with, "Neither am I." But you're on a boat with 1,000 PCA people. You'll have a blast. You'll be talking Porsche every day if you want. It's everything you think about a cruise. It's probably not like that if you think it's just.
It's just different. It's just
It is-
different when
it
you're
is.
going with a bunch of people that you enjoy, talking car stuff with. And the common question that Manny shared with me that he got where people were holding off on booking their excursions because they did not want to conflict with PCA activities. Don't worry. You can go ahead and book your excursions. There's nothing that we're doing that's going to conflict with the land-based excursions. We've shared with you that the local regions are going to come out to the ports and say hello to us. Even if you're going on an excursion, you're going to pass through and say hi to everyone before you get on the bus and do whatever you're going to do. So, and then the seminars and such, that's all going to be on the boat, either on sea day or when everyone else is already on the boat. So go ahead and book your excursions. You don't need to wait for us.
And look at the pricing. I am paying on my own way, not getting any money from Princess, but I had people come up to me and say, it is a really great deal for all you're getting. And these are non-cruise people once again.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a, talk to your wife about it, your spouse.
What I'll also say is, perhaps you're not coming to Treffinet Sea with us because the dates didn't work out. You have other commitments. The deals that PCA has for these cruises not only applies to Treffinet Sea, but if there's any other destination that you want to go where Princess cruises to, you can still call the PCA concierge desk and talk about that and get the discounts and get sort of the white glove service with it. The only difference is you're not going out with, 900 of us. It'd be you and your group, but still you can take advantage of all the pricing and discounts and such.
Yeah, I'm
So.
not doing that.
Manny just wants to go with us. I know he doesn't want to go on his own. PCA videos, a deep dive into the Tycon.
Oh, let me promote one more
yeah,
event.
well, that's right.
Our
Right.
friends from the 914 registry, I got it right here on my screen, but you can show it up on the screen. They're having their Northeast Gathering, July 11th for 13th, up in the Pocono Mountains at Skytop Lounge. We've done this, or Lodge, excuse me. We've done this a few times, once actually, because they keep on scheduling the same week as Parade.
But this is after, is it?
No, it's the end of Parade.
The end of
Yeah,
Parade.
I know.
Yikes.
Hopefully they always ask, how come you guys don't attend? It's because we're working.
And it's so close.
I know.
Oh.
It's, what do you got to get your car running.
I have a 914. They didn't say you have to bring it.
Do you think yours will be running before mine is?
No. That is a bet I'm not going to take.
She's hired Casey to be your project manager on your restoration of your car. Anyways, go to look on the Facebook page for Porsche 914 Northeast Gathering, or Google it. I don't think they have a web page. Anyways,
Registration deadline June 1st.
Yep, it's a 3-day event: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Actually, Sunday's an optional drive. Really, the big day is Saturday. If you just want to go for one day, that's the day to go.
Skytop Lodge.
It's a ton of 914s. And they do nice casual drives. I had a blast when I went with
A
them.
lot of good people, and I can tell you, many of them have threatened to steal my car and just get things done because they're tired of waiting around. But they are chock full of information. If you have a 914 and wondering what you should do, how you should do, or how it was supposed to be, all that knowledge is going to be
You
there.
can give a seminar how to take it apart.
And moving on, Mr. Manny, want to remind you also that PCA Sim Racing is available to you. If you want to race with others online, we can get you set up, PCASimRacing.com. Back to videos. Deep dive into Taycan, Macan, and electric models for 2025 was recently posted.
Yes, it was.
And that's from Mr. Lowney.
Yeah, so it's been pretty busy just with non-video work lately. So I'm sorry I don't have anything else to present right now, but we have a couple of Road Scholars videos left in the hopper waiting to be edited. We might publish something about one of the Porsche electric bikes, but I just want to be sure that footage is all good. That was an interesting video that we've never filmed something like that before. And then we will have some model reviews coming up pretty soon as well. We should have quite a few by the end of the year, but the first two are going to be a Macan Turbo EV and a 911 Carrera GTS T Hybrid. So look forward to that in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We'll be filming those pretty soon.
And in fairness to Mr. Lowney, he's been pulled multiple directions. He's helping out with the 70th anniversary, and he's working on some other projects to make sure that we are ready for the rest of the year. So he's not just sitting there watching YouTube. He's actually working. It's just some of that stuff doesn't actually get produced and turned out.
I'm about
later.
to hand them over. So this was going back to the cruise and the seminars. The one seminar I did miss because I had to go on an excursion. So there was conflicting stuff. I had something going on that maybe it was excursion,
no,
maybe it was
not
a dinner or something.
Yes.
Something tore me away from I couldn't go.
Food tore you away.
Yes, they had a really good pizza place.
Okay.
And it tasted like a wood fire, but I don't think they had wood fire on the boats.
They do.
They had a open
do.
fire oven.
They have
I thought that was like a big no-no. Was open
They
fire.
have.
Anyways,
they have it contained.
It was very good. Very strange though. They didn't have pepperoni, which I couldn't understand. It's like they
Pepperoni's
never
not allowed.
visited a pizza parlor in New York. How
not-
can you not have pepperoni as an option?
They allow wood-fired pizzas. They do not allow pepperoni.
It must be something with the ocean. Anyways, going back to the video thing, we had a presentation from Tag Heuer, which was actually very interesting. Just got done watching it and marking it, and it's basically the history of Tag Heuer's relationship with Porsche, starting from the 50s. And, they finally formally cement their partnership in 2021. But up until then, how they ran very parallel paths with different drivers and the watches. And it's really interesting. And it tells a story about how Steve McQueen got talked into wearing a Monaco, which wasn't a popular watch back then in the film Le Mans. So it's only like a 35-minute presentation. But, take a look at it. I think you'll like it.
All right. For those of you that are interested in PCA Insider swag, head over to PCA's web store. We've got bottles, we've got mugs, we've got t-shirts and such. And if you're just simply looking for a PCA Insider decal, send us your address information to podcast@pca.org, and we'll be more than happy to send a set of decals out to you. And with that, we're at the top of the hour, a little bit past. Is there anything else before we close it out?
Oh, thanks again for having me, guys.
Casey,
Appreciate it.
thank you for joining us and looking forward to hanging out with you and exploring some other cars that the collections
You
might
let me know.
have offered. So again, thank you for listening, everyone. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, consider sharing our show with fellow Porsche enthusiasts. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.